Hello folks, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, your guide to all things geeky, and it is part 5 of my analysis of all the new titles that Marvel has announced they will be launching later this fall, or at least the ones that have been announced so far. You see, Marvel put out a magazine that had 45 titles in it, and we thought that might be all of them, but turns out they still had a bunch planned, and pretty much every single day Marvel has been announcing new titles that are going to be coming out later this fall. And it takes me about 48 hours to edit one of these videos, so in the 2 days that takes me to end this video and to edit it and put it up on YouTube, they might announce who knows what. So I'm just going to go ahead and list off a bunch of titles that could be coming and give you my 2-second reaction. Okay, Ray, here we go. Nice, I can see it working. Totally called it. Really, he survived Secret Wars. What? No, well, maybe, I guess, if you get the right writer on it. Wait and see. Yes! Excita hesitant. Ah, I knew it! Yes, as I said, this is part 5. This is it. This is the finale. This is the final part of my analysis of all the new Marvel titles that are coming out later this fall. And as I said, Marvel has revealed a lot of new titles that will be coming out that weren't in that magazine that they gave out. So before we all turn to that magazine that they gave us, I'm just going to run down my analysis of those titles. Alright, first one to talk about, Unbeatable Squirrel Girl is returning and has the exact same writer and artist working on it. Thank goodness, because Unbeatable Squirrel Girl is so fun. It is one of the most fun books out there, not just from Marvel, but period. It is excellent, and it's a great all-ages book. I'm always looking for good all-ages book that I can recommend to adults, but also to any kid that comes into my store and wants to start reading comics. And Squirrel Girl is one of the best ones out there for anybody. I love giving that to adults, and I love giving that to little kids who come in. So, perfect. I'm glad that is returning. Next up, Blade is getting his own book again, except this time he's going to be sharing the book with his daughter. Yes, they announced that Blade has a daughter, and this new upcoming Blade series is going to be a father-daughter series. And that sounds awesome to me. I mean, seriously, think about everything that you know about Blade, and then picture him raising a kid. And that sounds awesome to me. That sounds like a lot of fun. And they say it's going to be told from the daughter's point of view, which is pretty cool to me. I mean, hey, this is basically now Blade plus Buffy, which was a far harder sentence for me to say than I thought it would. Blade plus Buffy. Damn it. Okay, try saying that at home, guys. But on this book, they're putting Tim Seeley, and Tim Seeley became famous for writing a book called Hack and Slash over at Image, and Hack and Slash was about the survivor of basically a slasher film going around and killing other slasher monsters. So it's basically the same concept of Blade. It's somebody going out there and killing other monsters. And I didn't read Hack and Slash for a long time, and the reason why was because that was the cover to it. And I looked at that and went, this just looks like pervy trash. However, then I finally read it and went, oh my god, this is actually a really strong female protagonist. This very misleading cover here totally kept me from reading about a great, strong, three-dimensional female character. So I actually trust this guy to work on the new Daughter of Blade series. And lastly, just today, Marvel announced that Hercules is getting another series, which is great, because Marvel's take on Hercules is so much fun. For anybody out there who has never read Marvel's take on Hercules, did you ever watch Batman Brave and the Bold? You remember their Aquaman and how much fun he was? Yeah, that was Marvel's Hercules. That was a straight-up ripoff of Marvel's Hercules. Just imagine that character, but drunk. Okay, that's their take on Hercules. And he's had 2 series before in recent history. One was written by Greg Pak, and it took over for the Hulk series when that took a break, and that was very successful. That was a lot of fun. Everybody loved it. And then after that, he got his own series just called Herc, and that was also a lot of fun. But nobody read it and got canceled almost immediately. So I'm glad to see that they are attempting this again. However, I'm hesitant because Luke Ross is drawing it and he's perfect. I mean, he's perfect on this book, and I think he's going to do a great job on it. And the covers look fantastic. But Dan Abnett is writing it. And nothing against Dan Abnett, because Abnett and his writing partner Lanning wrote, in my opinion, the best Guardians of the Galaxy. They wrote the Guardians of the Galaxy that the movie was eventually based off of, and holy cow, that was so much fun. I loved it. It was so inventive too, like really imaginative, crazy science fiction stuff. I thought was fantastic. However, Abnett and Landing now hate each other. They split up and they refuse to work with each other and they can't stand one another. And I've read both of their solo things, and it becomes pretty clear that Abnett and Landing was one of those the whole is greater than the sum of its parts deals. Because, don't get me wrong, they're both okay on their own, but that's it. They're just okay. But, you know, as I said, okay still has potential. Okay can still turn into great. So, fingers crossed on this. But okay, it is time for us to finish up with what was revealed in this magazine. So let's all grab it, turn it to... should have planned this out. Oh, there we go. Doctor Strange. Yes, Doctor Strange is coming back and is being written by Jason Aaron. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, Jason Aaron might be my favorite writer out there right now. I absolutely love Southern Bastards. That's one of my favorite things that Image is pointing out. And his Thor over at Marvel, oh my gosh, that's so good. And his Star Wars that he's doing for Marvel right now. I was never a big Star Wars fan, don't get me wrong. I really like the movies. I think they are great movies. Half of them. But I just never really got into the fandom, and I've been reading his books and I'm like, I kind of want to get into this fandom. So yeah, I'm super excited that Jason Aaron is doing this book. I think they made the right choice with that, because if you read his Thor God of Thunder, that first storyline that he did with the God Butcher, with all that time travel and space gods and space libraries and all this crazy magic back and forth and gods from eons in the future, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to see that dude do Dormammu. That dude knows what he's doing. I want to see him do the Chaos Dimension. Man, I'm getting excited just thinking about it. And Chris Pacello is on art, and I think Chris Pacello still does a really good job. I would be happy to see what he does. Now, there's one weird thing that you might notice from that preview image, which is that Doctor Strange, who was a surgeon and a peaceful man who dealt with magic, is now wielding a freaking battle axe. And I remember reading a conversation with Jason Aaron in which he mentioned that Doctor Strange, after Secret War, his magic will be damaged. It's not going to be functioning as well, so he needs a way to defend himself if his magic ever craps out. I think that could lead to some cool stories. So alright, I am totally down with this. This is one of the biggest books that I am looking forward to coming from this relaunch. Next up is the Illuminati. Now, in Marvel Comics, the Illuminati was the name given to Tony Stark and Reed Richards' team of scientists and Doctor Strange and Black Bolt and like basically just the biggest, smartest guys on the planet who basically just oversaw the entire planet and went, okay, we're gonna deal with the threats before they happen. And I always found that kind of weird that they named themselves the Illuminati, because the Illuminati is never associated with anything good. I even feel weird saying that word out loud too many times. But with this new series, they're taking that term and they are applying it now to actual supervillains. It's going to be the Hood and his gang, and I love the Hood series that Brian K. Vaughan did for Marvel Max, in which it was basically the origin of a supervillain. It was this low-level street thug who gained these magical items, and it was his origin story of, okay, well, now what can I do with all this power? And it was a great start to a character. And then the next time they popped up was when Brian Michael Bendis took him and did with him what Brian Michael Bendis does with characters. Focus. Okay, so it's going to be about his team and his criminals, and it's on their quest to take over the world, and it's cool because it reminds me of what that original Hood series was. It's the start of something big, and I want to see where it goes when it builds from there. And his team is going to be comprised of Thunderball, who was always my favorite member of the Wrecking Crew. It always seemed like he knew a little bit better than the rest of the Wrecking Crew, so I'm glad to see him splitting off. It's going to be Titania, who is splitting off from Absorbing Man, going off and doing her own, and I love that new costume of hers. She always had a really bad costume. I mean, it was good for back in the day, but it's needed an update. It's going to have Black Ant, who is the evil cyborg remains of Eric O'Grady, who was the third Ant-Man. Comics are weird, everyone. And then there is also going to be the Mad Tinkerer, who's sporting a big beard. And there is also going to be a character who I don't recognize. It might be new. I don't know. If anybody knows who that is, leave it down in the comments below. And here's the best part. The series about a group of supervillains is being written by Josh Williamson. And you might be wondering, well, who's Josh Williamson? Josh Williamson has worked over at Image on a series called Nailbiter, which is about a town where something causes everyone to turn into serial killers. That dude is writing a series about supervillains over at Marvel. I'm excited because that's actually a really good series. He's also doing a series called Birthright, which is all about this warrior who comes from a distant land to slay evil, but then it turns out he's actually possessed by evil himself. Oh, by the way, spoilers for Birthright. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's really good too. I'm really enjoying that. So that dude writing a book about supervillains, oh my gosh. The moment I saw this in the magazine, I was like, it could be okay. The moment I saw his name on it, I was like, it's gonna rock. Next up, Contest of Champions. It is basically superheroes being taken by the Maestro, which is the evil future version of the Hulk. And he's taking them all and pitting them against each other to fight each other one-on-one. And this sounds awesome for multiple reasons. One, if you've been reading the current Hulk series, they basically said, yeah, we're tired of the Maestro kind of being hinted at in the future. We're going to finally embrace that. We're going to finally turn the Hulk into the Maestro. So seeing this 8-month time jump, I don't think this is one of those like alternate dimension characters who got left over after Secret Wars. I think that's actually our Bruce Banner. I think that he has, after these 8 months, finally turned into the Maestro. So that's pretty awesome. Second reason it's awesome, it's being drawn by Paco Medina. That guy is really good. But here's the third reason why it's so awesome, and the reason I'm looking forward to it so much. It's being written by Al Ewing. Little story about Al Ewing. Last year in March, a coworker and I decided, just for fun, we're going to do a March Madness little like 64 character bracket in which we take the 64 biggest names in comics at the moment. And we pit them against each other, we divide it into brackets, and we're like, alright, so who can beat who? And we came up with scenarios for it and decided like, alright, what's the percentage of each person beating each other? And then we moved it all to see who would be the number one. It was a big thing that we did, and I just posted it on Tumblr. And one of the characters who we picked was Spectrum, who at the time was in Mighty Avengers, and that book was doing pretty well at the time. So we're like, alright, Spectrum is awesome, it's one of our favorite characters, so we're going to take her. She's in this category, and she ended up going up against the Flash. Now, these were totally random pairings, and we had her go against her, and we looked at, and you guys can disagree with me in the comments, and I'm not going to go into the reasons why, but we had Spectrum end up winning that fight. And I posted that on Tumblr, and I tagged it with Spectrum, Monica Rambeau, I tagged it with Mighty Avengers, and I come back from work one day and find that that post has blown up. And I was like, why is that so famous? I looked, Al Ewing himself took that post, reblogged it, and then wrote about 9 paragraphs of his layout of how the fight would go down, breaking down each character's stats, each of their abilities, each of their skills, wrote a mini story about how it would happen, told how he would have the comic go, told how he would have a team up between these characters go, and then concluded with who he thinks would actually win. Okay, you know all those geeks out there who are like, oh, well, I think this character would win. Who do you think would win in a fight with this? Al Ewing is one of those geeks, except he knows what he's talking about. I read that and I was like, oh my god, this guy is the Marvel Wikipedia page come to life. That dude is one of us. He's a geek. He knows their stats, he knows their backstories, he knows how they act, their personalities, and he knows who would win a fight. And Marvel's just gonna let him go, yeah, alright, figure out who would win a fight. I love this. I'm so excited to see him on this book. Anybody else on this book, I'd be like, I don't care. They nailed it with this guy. Also, one little fun fact about that cover. In that top little section there, you see a character whose name is White Fox, who has never actually appeared in American Marvel Comics. She has only appeared before in a South Korean Marvel webcomic, and this will actually be her first, like, in-canon Marvel comic appearance. And that's kind of a cool thing. So, alright, that's another thing to look forward to. Next up, and this is the one that so many people have been talking about, Daredevil is coming back, and if you've been reading what Mark Waid has been writing on that series, I don't know how his last issue is going to end, and it's making me pretty nervous. And Daredevil looks like he's coming back a little bit darker than normal, which means it might not end happy for him, but it has been confirmed that he is moving back to New York, and he is now going to be a district attorney, which I don't know the legal system, but that sounds pretty important. That sounds higher up than what he normally was, so that's going to be pretty cool. And as I said, I don't know the legal system, but you know who does? Charles Soule! And one of the reasons why he knows the legal system so well is because he is actually a lawyer. As I was reading She-Hulk, I was like, this dude knows what he's talking about, and it turns out, yeah, he does. He is actually a practicing lawyer. If you ever have to go to comic book court, that's the dude you call. So I am excited to see that he is now going to write another lawyer. My only concern, though, is that half the stuff Charles Soule writes is amazing. The other half is... And you can very clearly tell the stuff that's amazing is the stuff he wants to write. The stuff that he is passionate about, the stuff he's excited about, the stuff he's got ideas, and the stuff that is kind of is the stuff that you can tell Marvel or DC or whoever he's working for just went, yeah, we're putting you on this book. So I'm still putting it in the wait and see category, but honestly, I think Charles Soule wants to write Daredevil. I mean, it is another lawyer. It is the stuff he knows. I think he's going to do just great on this book. I'm excited for that. And we also have to talk about the fact that Daredevil now has a partner. He now has a protege who he's training, and it is not Gambit. Stop saying it's Gambit. Seriously, when I was looking through this magazine and I had like 3 of my other employees staying around me as we looked at it, and I flipped to that page, every single one of them in unison just went, oh my god, he's working with Gambit. Gambit's gotta be in the book. That's all everyone on Twitter and Tumblr was talking about. It's not Gambit. Daredevil's new partner in this book is a brand new character. We've never seen him before. All we know about him is that he lives in Chinatown, and they kind of described it that the way that Matt protects Hell's Kitchen, this character is going to be protecting Chinatown. And they also said this isn't a sidekick thing. This is not Batman and Robin. He said they are going to be treated equally in this book. They are going to get equal representation in this book, which is awesome. And when you look at that tagline on there, it says The Devil's Apprentice. Now, for anybody who knows about the history of Daredevil, Styx taught Matt everything that he knows, and he taught him that because it was like, hey, these are skills that have to be passed down from generation to generation. So I think this might be that thing. I think this might be Matt going, hey man, I've come of age, it's time for me to pass these skills along to someone else. So I think that's a pretty awesome step to take with this. I can't wait to read that. And I also find this really cool for another reason, which is because during the course of making all these videos previewing the new Marvel books coming out, I've actually had multiple people in the comments say that Marvel needs to focus on making more Asian American characters, and here you go. Here is in fact one. Like, the moment that everybody asked for that, Marvel came out and said, yeah, this is a brand new Asian American character and he's sharing equal representation with Matt in this book. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Marvel shouldn't keep making even more, but hey, first steps. There you go, Marvel. Good first steps. Next up is one of the weirdest and biggest surprises on this list. Howling Commandos of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, they have tried to make a Howling Commandos thing happen for a long time because Marvel just thinks that, hey, monsters combined with the military sounds like a cool idea, and I'm not gonna lie, it does sound like a cool idea. How does it never work? But hey, they're trying it again, and this time it's Dum Dum Dugan, which for anybody who read Original Sin, it was shown that Dum Dum Dugan had been a robot this whole time, and I think they're going to continue that and have him still be a robot, which I think is dumb. I actually prefer the old Dum Dum Dugan, but as long as we get Dum Dum back in some way, shape, or form, good, because that is such an awesome character to have on S.H.I.E.L.D. Then after that, you have the zombie Jasper Sitwell, which I don't remember him dying, but I'm currently reading all the old Secret Warriors books, and he's still alive in that, and I think this just spoiled the ending of it for me. Then after that, you have Orgo, who's one of the old 1950s Jack Kirby monsters, which I always love that Marvel had all these monsters just sitting there and they never did anything with them. I'm like, why do you never bring those guys out? Like you did something with Groot? Come on, they're all good. Bring them all back. So I'm glad to see that happening. Then you have Manphibian, who was a weird 1970s monster that they created, who appeared like twice. Then you have Man-Thing. Always been a fan of Man-Thing. I think Man-Thing is a great character who needs more exposure, so I'm glad to see that happening. You've got Teen Abomination, who was in Superior Iron Man, which was an okay series, whatever. And then you've got Hit Monkey from Deadpool. Man, this just gets weirder and weirder. Then you have got a new character, I think she's new, called Vampire by Night. And then you have got Warwolf, which they describe as being like the Snake Eyes of the team. So, okay, whatever. But I keep looking at Werewolf and it's like, is that Werewolf by Night? Is that Jack Russell? Is that the old Werewolf by Night character? Or is it a brand new character? I don't know. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But as I said, monsters combined with special ops military guys seems like that would be a cool idea. I don't know why that book never worked, so fingers crossed that it will finally work this time. Speaking of special ops teams, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. returns, except Mark Waid is finally off that book, which thank goodness, because Mark Waid is an insanely talented writer, and reading that book, it's very clear that Marvel just got him in there so that the people nervous about a TV-related book would go, oh hey, it's Mark Waid writing it, I'll check it out, because he's wasted on that book. It's a fine book, it's okay, but Mark Waid can do so much better, and as you read that book, you're just like, they're telling you what to write on this. You're not choosing this yourself. The higher-ups are going, yeah, we gotta do stuff that kind of ties into the TV show a little bit here. So he's not the guy to write that. So I'm glad to see him off it, but aside from that, I don't know if this is gonna be any different. I don't know if this new series is gonna be like, no, we actually now are going to let this guy write whatever he wants, or if they're just going to keep telling the new writer, Mark Guggenheim, okay, write this. So I don't know. Out of all the ones I'm talking about here today, this is probably the one I'm least looking forward to, but it could also be the biggest surprise out of them all. Next up, we have Uncanny Inhumans, which is also being written by Charles Soule. I actually really like Charles Soule's Inhuman run. I know that a lot of people have been like, it's okay, whatever. I've actually really been digging it. It started off slow, very slow, but I stuck with it, and it's one of those things that kind of built and grew as it went. And they already had Uncanny Inhumans issue 0 come out, which was all about Black Bolt going, hey listen, the world is about to end. I know that this Secret Wars thing is coming, it's gonna happen eventually, and I gotta save my kid. And the only person I know of who can save my kid is someone who can time travel. So he takes him to Kang the Conqueror, one of the biggest Avengers villains out there, and goes, listen, you take care of my kid, you take him away from all this, you take him back in time so he can live out a long, fulfilling life, he's yours. He's all yours, do whatever you want with him, as long as he survives. So I want to see where that storyline's gonna go, because that sounds pretty darn cool to me. Also in the current Inhumans series, Medusa has basically broken up with Black Bolt. She basically said, yeah, where were you? I was taking care of my people when they were in trouble. You just left town. And now it kind of looks like they've joined forces again, but what I've heard people describe this as is it's going to be kind of like an uneasy alliance. It's going to be like, all right, for the greater good, I guess we'll be together, but they don't really want to be working with each other anymore. So I think that's going to be a pretty cool dynamic. I really like the fact that the Human Torch is in this, because the Human Torch at the Fantastic Four is gone. I'm glad he's somewhere. But the biggest surprise of them all is that Beast is on the team. Man, Marvel, you are really trying to make the Inhumans the new X-Men. You really are. They say that Beast is learning that there's some big crisis coming, some big thing that's going to happen, and it's going to endanger both mutants and Inhumans. So he's now teaming up with them. Yeah, man, I don't know what to say. Seriously, I have no idea what it could possibly be that connects the Inhumans and the mutants, and that has me intrigued. It's very rare in comics that you have no idea what's about to happen, so I'm looking forward to this. Plus, as I said, I trust Charles Soule in this book. I've actually talked to him at conventions, and this is like a passion project for him. Like, you can tell just from talking to him, he is super excited about this. He really loves writing these Inhumans, so awesome. I can't wait to keep reading what he's going to do with them. And speaking of Inhumans and not knowing what's going to happen, Karnak is getting a series, which this was hands down the biggest shock out of any of these books that were revealed. Not necessarily because it's Karnak getting a book, but because Warren Ellis is writing it. Holy cow. Marvel, do you have something on Ellis? Like, whenever you need to put a book out there and you don't think it's going to sell, do you just like pull out some photos that Warren Ellis doesn't want shown and it's going, no, you gotta come in and put like 6 months on this book right now? Or is it that Warren Ellis just really loves the challenge? Is it that Warren Ellis just goes, what character are you guys gonna put out that will not sell at all unless I touch him? That guy? Well, guess what I'm gonna write. Because yeah, when I heard Moon Knight was coming back, I was like, alright, I like Moon Knight, that's good, but you know, they've given him a bunch of series and they haven't really worked out that well. Warren Ellis is writing it? Oh my god. And yes, indeed, his 6-issue run on Moon Knight was mind-blowing. That was sensational, so I fully trust him on this book, and I cannot wait to see what he is going to do on it. I am super excited for Karnak. And the last book to talk about is Angela, which is being renamed from Angela Asgard's Assassin to Angela Queen of Hell. That's a shift, but if you've been reading the current Angela series, which I've enjoyed, I think it's a pretty darn good series. I really like her and her traveling companion Sarah. I think those two bounce off each other really well. And if you've been reading the current series, then you know that at the end of it, spoilers, at the end of it, it was revealed that her traveling companion Sarah had actually died years ago, and that the Sarah she'd been walking around with was Malekith the Accursed, and Malekith went, yeah, I was planning on manipulating you until you figured out all this. If you want to know where Sarah actually is, she's in hell. She's in hell, she's being punished, she's being burned because of all the stuff that you did, and the series ends with her turning towards the camera and going, I'm going to hell. Like, badass, like, I'm gonna just rip stuff open. And I was like, oh, where's this going? Okay, as we all know, after Secret Wars, everything is jumping ahead by 8 months. Apparently, after those 8 months, she went to hell, she beat some ass, and now she's the new ruler of hell. This sounds awesome. I have a few concerns though, the main one being that Karen Gillian is leaving the book. Now, he had always shared writing duties on this book with Marguerite Bennett. And I like Marguerite Bennett, but she's never written anything that I loved. She's just written things that's like, yeah, okay, that's pretty good. And she has been, yeah, okay, that's pretty good, on Angela. So I want to see how she's going to do on her own, because the best stuff about Angela Asgard's assassin so far has been the stuff that very clearly has been written by Karen Gillian. But the stuff that she's written, like I said, has been okay. And as I said at the very beginning of this episode, that's called callback. Okay still has the potential to be great. So I can't wait to see what she does, and I really hope that she turns into something great, because I really think she has the potential to. Plus, as I said, it's Angela as the Queen of Hell. Look at that freaking cover. That's awesome. But, okay folks, that is it. That is part 5, that is it. That is all the books that Marvel has announced so far. I doubt they're going to announce so many more ones that I will end up having to do a part 6. But when the books finally do come out, I will cover them all. I'm going to read them all. I'm going to tell you guys what I think about them. And you can hear my opinions by clicking subscribe on this channel right here. Hit that button now. And as always, I want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about these announcements? Which of these announcements are you most excited about? And also, since we have now talked about everyone that they've announced so far, but they are still announcing more, what other book do you hope gets announced? Let me know that in the comments as well. And if you want more from me, or you want to get in touch with me somehow, Twitter, Tumblr, I'm on both those things. That's the address right there. I am completely out of saliva after talking for this long, guys, so you're gonna have to forgive me. I'm like a car with no tires, just trying to screech across the finish line. But alright, I thank you guys so much. If you want to see more from me, then click on the videos at the end of this episode, and I'm just gonna go and guzzle an entire liter of Gatorade right now. Thanks everyone. That was not a joke, that was real.